here we have some cured, smoked pork back fat. And I've got my larding needle. We're actually going to inject strips of fat into the meat. So to start with, I've got a nice solid slab here, and I'm going to inject my larding needle therein. Once you get it in, you give it a good twist, and it's going to cut a nice noodle of fat for you. There's our noodle of fat. If you don't want it to look like a caterpillar, you can just nick the little wormies. A larded leg of lamb. Recommendations on keeping lard till needed for keeping meats of other animals. So I am real simple about this. I render the lard, and the cool thing about lard rendering is that it makes the lard incredibly stable on account of the fact that it evaporates the water. So lard itself, when you're rendering it, which is to say you've ground it or you've chopped it as fine as you can, you put it in a pot, low heat, and you're melting it. That's what rendering is. If you see bubbles, if you see steam, fat doesn't bubble. That is water escaping. And water is the catalyst of spoilage. That's why I feel like when you're talking about preserving meat or the keepability of the meat, it's relative spoilage. Humidity is a more pertinent discussion than temperature. And because humidity is water, ambient water, and that is the thing that all bacteria need to proliferate and do damage. So when it comes to lard, you're rendering it, water is evaporating. So it is extremely stable when it's done rendering on account of there being no water. And so I pour it into mason jars if I have enough, and I usually don't. So I usually go to I let the lard cool, but still be pourable. And then I pour it into these deli quart containers because they're readily available. And I just refrigerate it. So that's the rendered stuff. And months and months and months. It stays refrigerated for many, many months, like probably years. I don't know. I don't think I've ever done it for years because we always use it sooner than that. But many, many months. You might even get little spots of mold on the top. You just scrape those up. Excuse me. Just scrape those off. No worries. The other thing that you would look for when you're preserving lard, and I realize you might be talking about unrendered fat, which we'll get to, but with lard is use a clear container to store it, because it's so glass or less ideally plastic. You will see on the bottomest of it, if you see an amber layer, if you see anything other than white basically on the bottom, but specifically like a thickish, maybe an eighth or a quarter of an inch, or it could even be more of like this amber layer. It's just dark, it's brown, it's totally not the pure white of the lard. That is stock, because even though leaf fat is the highest concentration and density of fat on the pig, there's still some protein in there. And over that long cooking, it kind of makes a stock. And stock, having water, is very spoilageable, prone to spoilage. So all that means is use that one first, because that one is going to have the shortest shelf life in your fridge. So just use that one first. It's a good, and it's always the one that you pour from the pot last. And you'll even look as I've got the last, pint in there. I'm going to pour it into my container. You'll see there's little floaters, because the fat, as it cools, rises to the top. That's why you get a fat cap at the top of your stock. It precipitates, right? And that's what will happen to that last quart. So that one is going to spoil the quickest. So that's what I would do. I'm going to sneeze. Sorry. It's that season. Any change of season, we just become sneezing maniacs in this house. Okay, so there's lard that you just keep that, and then when you get your deer several months down the line, then you could cube it up. You could put even whole mussels submerge them in the lard, and simmer it, and it cooks it, and then let it cool in your fridge. And if there's any meat appearing, on the surface, just pour in more lard, and it'll seal it and chill.